What happens when one of Hollywood's most elegant and composed actresses walks onto a talk show set expecting a simple film promotion, only to find herself trapped in the most vicious ambush ever televised? What you're about to witness is the moment Nicole Kidman, a woman who has spent 3 decades mastering the art of grace under pressure, finally reached her breaking point and delivered a takedown so devastating that it left Joy Behar speechless, humiliated and exposed as the petty, jealous host she truly is. This wasn't just another celebrity interview gone wrong. This was a public execution disguised as journalism. And by the end, only one woman would walk away with her dignity intact. The morning of November 12th began like any other promotional day for Nicole Kidman. She had a new psychological thriller to promote, already generating Oscar buzz. Her publicist had confirmed the appearance on The View weeks earlier routine stop on the talk show circuit, usually filled with harmless questions about costumes, co-stars, and funny moments on set. Nicole had done hundreds of these interviews. She understood the rhythm, the pacing, the predictable dance of celebrity promotion. She arrived at the studio early, her auburn hair perfectly styled, wearing an elegant cream dress that balanced sophistication with warmth. In the green room, she sipped herbal tea and reviewed talking points with her team, completely unaware that Joy Behar had spent the previous night digging through old interviews, tabloid rumors, and unverified gossip, assembling an arsenal designed to undermine her. Regular crew members noticed something different that morning. Joy had arrived unusually early, carrying a thick folder of printed articles. She barely spoke during the production meeting. When Whoopi Goldberg tried to ask what was going on, Joy brushed her off with a tight smile. The makeup artists whispered to each other. They had seen that look before. Joy was hunting. And when Joy decided to hunt, blood was usually spilled before the first commercial break. The studio audience filed in, excited to see Nicole Kidman. Many held photos they hoped to have signed. The warm-up comedian finished his routine. The theme music rolled, the cameras went live, and Nicole stepped onto the stage with the grace that had defined her career, unaware that she was walking straight into an ambush. "Welcome back to The View," Joy began, her voice coated with a sweetness that felt dangerously artificial. "I'm Joy Behar, and we're here with the incredibly talented Nicole Kidman." Her smile was bright and professional, but her eyes told another story entirely. Nicole settled into her seat, crossing her legs with effortless poise. "Thank you for having me, Joy. It's always a pleasure to be on the show." It was the polite lie all celebrities tell. She had appeared on the show 3 times before, each visit uneventful, and that was exactly how she preferred it. For the first several minutes, everything went according to script. They discussed the film, the psychological depth of her character, and the challenges of portraying a woman unraveling emotionally. Nicole spoke thoughtfully, and the audience was fully engaged. Sunny asked about the director. Sarah complimented her dress. Everything was smooth, controlled, predictable, but those watching Joy closely noticed the shift. Her posture stiffened. Her jaw tightened. Her questions, still wrapped in politeness, began to develop a sharp undercurrent. The other hosts sensed it too. Whoopi's eyes narrowed. Sunny glanced off camera toward the producers. Something was building, and everyone felt it. "You know, Nicole," Joy said, her tone suddenly stripped of warmth. She leaned forward, eyes gleaming with a predatory energy. "I was reading some of your old interviews last night. Fascinating stuff. You've been quite vocal about your political views over the years, haven't you?" The temperature in the studio seemed to drop. Nicole's smile flickered for the briefest moment, but she recovered instantly. "Well, I think it's important for people to be engaged with the world around them," she replied, her Australian accent sharpening slightly, a sign she was choosing her words very carefully. "But when I'm here to promote a film, I try to keep the focus on the work." Joy laughed sharp, cold, almost mocking. "Oh, but surely you can't just turn off your opinions when it's convenient, can you?" she pressed. "You've made some pretty strong statements about certain political figures, about social issues, about what actors should do with their platforms. You remember those interviews, don't you?" The trap had been set. Nicole exhaled softly, maintaining her composure even as tension settled across her shoulders. Her hands clasped a bit tighter in her lap. "Joy, I'm really here to talk about the film," she said calmly. "I think the audience would be more interested in hearing about." Nicole continued, "The incredible story we're telling and the amazing cast I was fortunate to work with. The audience can decide what they're interested in, can't they?" Joy shot back instantly, her mask slipping further to reveal something sharper and uglier underneath. "I'm just curious about this tendency you seem to have speaking out passionately on issues when it suits you, and then retreating into, 'I'm just here for my work' when someone actually wants to discuss those positions. It's an interesting pattern, don't you think?" Whoopi tried to intervene, sensing that Joy had gone completely off script and into dangerous, unprofessional territory. "Maybe we should talk about the amazing cast Nicole got to work with on this film," she suggested gently, her tone carrying a subtle warning. But Joy dismissed her with a wave of her hand, not even bothering to look at her. No, I think this is important. This is the kind of conversation that matters." She turned back to Nicole, her eyes now gleaming with open malice. The pretense of journalism had completely vanished. "Nicole, you made some comments a few years ago about the entertainment industry and how it handles social issues. You said silence makes people complicit. Do you still stand by those comments? Or was that just another case of Hollywood virtue signaling?" The phrase hit like a slap. Nicole's jaw tightened, barely noticeable but unmistakable to anyone who knew her. Her blue eyes, warm and open minutes earlier, had gone cold. "I'm not sure what specific comments you're referring to." "Joy," she replied, her voice controlled but edged with steel. "But I've always tried to speak honestly about issues I care about. I've never claimed to be perfect, but I've tried to be authentic." "Oh, come on, Nicole." Joy's voice rose just enough to dominate the room. "You know exactly what I'm talking about. You criticize the industry for not doing enough, for staying silent, for protecting powerful people. But then when it actually matters, you're right there collecting your paychecks and staying very, very quiet." The studio fell utterly silent. Cameras hummed softly, the only sound in the room. Nicole took a deep breath, fighting to maintain her trademark composure. "Joy, I think there might be some misunderstanding here." Her voice lowered, dangerously quiet, a warning disguised as calm. "I've consistently supported causes I believe in, both publicly and privately. I've put my money where my mouth is. I've shown up. I've used my platform to amplify voices that need amplifying." Joy's sarcasm dripped like venom. "Really? Because from where I'm sitting, and I've been sitting in this chair for a very long time, looks like you pick and choose when to have a conscience, depending on what's most convenient for your career." Nicole's eyes flashed her first visible crack. "I'm sorry," she said, her voice sharp enough to cut through the air. "But I'm not going to sit here and have my integrity questioned based on some twisted interpretation of past interviews taken completely out of context." Twisted interpretation. Joy leaned back, smirking like a cat that had finally cornered its prey. "I'm just pointing out the inconsistencies in your public persona, Nicole. That's what journalism is supposed to do, isn't it? Hold people accountable. Ask the tough questions. Or should I just sit here and help you sell your movie like every other sycophantic interviewer? Journalism." Nicole's voice cracked with disbelief. "Is that what you call this? An ambush?" "Joy, I came here in good faith to discuss my work, and you're trying to manufacture controversy where none exists." The tension in the studio had become suffocating. Camera operators exchanged uneasy glances. In the control room, producers frantically signaled Joy to stop, but she was too far gone. She smelled blood. Controversy. Joy repeated, her voice turning cold and triumphant. "Oh, Nicole, if you think this is controversy, maybe you're not as committed to those lofty principles you're always lecturing everyone about. Maybe the problem isn't my questions. Maybe the problem is that you can't handle being held to the same standards you demand from everyone else." Nicole's hands were now white-knuckled in her lap. Her breathing had quickened. She was approaching the breaking point, anyone could see it. But still, she tried to hold the line of professionalism. "You know what, Joy?" she began, her voice steady but icy. "I've been doing interviews for over 30 years. I've sat across from some of the toughest interviewers in the business, real journalists who know how to ask challenging questions without turning them into personal attacks. And I can tell the difference between tough questions and a hit job. And this." She paused, meeting Joy's eyes. "This is something else entirely." Joy's eyes lit up with triumph. "A hit job?" she echoed, savoring every syllable. "That's quite an accusation, Nicole. Maybe the problem isn't my questions. Maybe the problem is that you can't handle being held accountable for your own words and choices. Maybe you're just not used to being challenged by someone who isn't intimidated by your fame or your Oscar nominations." "Accountable for what, exactly?" Nicole demanded, her voice finally rising in genuine anger. "For having opinions, for caring about issues, for refusing to be the silent, compliant puppet you apparently expected me to be, for actually giving a damn about things beyond box office numbers and award shows." Nicole fired back, her voice trembling with contained fury. The studio audience was silent, frozen, barely daring to breathe. They could sense they were witnessing something unprecedented, a total collapse of the usual celebrity talk show dynamic. A brutal evisceration happening in real time on live television. Even the camera operators seemed uncertain, caught between professionalism and pure shock. Unsure how to handle what had become an all-out battle between two entertainment powerhouses, Joy leaned forward aggressively, clearly energized by Nicole's rising frustration, feeding off it like a predator. "Oh, so now I'm the villain for asking you to explain your own contradictions," she said, her voice dripping with exaggerated disbelief. "That's rich, Nicole. Really, truly rich. I'm the bad guy for doing my job. Contradictions. What contradictions?" Nicole snapped. Politeness had evaporated completely. "Joy, you keep making these vague accusations without citing anything specific. You're throwing around innuendo and speculation and calling it journalism. If you have something concrete to say, then say it clearly instead of hiding behind vicious insinuations." Joy's smile widened into something poisonous. "Fine," she said sharply, sitting up straighter, clearly relishing the escalation. "Let's talk specifics then, shall we? 3 years ago, you gave an interview to The Guardian criticizing actors who stay silent on important issues. You said, and I quote, 'Silence in the face of injustice makes you complicit.' Those were your exact words." She paused deliberately. "But when that scandal broke, involving your production companies, investors, with extremely questionable business practices and even more questionable political connections, where was your voice then, Nicole? Where was all that passion? Where was your commitment to not being complicit?" Nicole's face went pale, but her voice stayed remarkably controlled. "That situation was completely different, and you know it," she replied firmly, though a tremor crept into her tone. "There were active legal proceedings. Speaking publicly would have compromised ongoing investigations. My lawyers explicitly advised—" "Oh, how convenient," Joy sneered, cutting her off mid-sentence. "Legal proceedings. The perfect excuse for selective activism. Tell me, Nicole, How do you sleep at night knowing you profited from those investments? Millions of dollars, by the way. While lecturing the rest of us, mere mortals, about moral responsibility. The other hosts looked mortified. Sunny's mouth had fallen open. Sarah Haynes stared at Joy with genuine horror. Even Whoopi, who had seen chaos on this show more times than she could count, looked deeply uncomfortable. Realizing Joy had crossed a major line, Sunny tried desperately to salvage the situation. "Maybe we could discuss Nicole's philanthropic work instead," she said, her voice almost pleading. "Nicole, you've been a UN Goodwill ambassador." Joy cut her off again with a sharp wave. "No, Sunny, I think our audience deserves to hear how Nicole reconciles her public statements with her private business dealings. Isn't that fair, Nicole? Isn't that the accountability you demand from everyone else?" Nicole's composure was hanging by a thread. "Joy," she said, her voice trembling with suppressed rage. "What you're doing right now is exactly what's wrong with media today. You take incredibly complex situations, strip away all nuance and context, and present them as simple black and white moral failures. It's dishonest. It's dangerous. And frankly, it's beneath you. Beneath me." Joy shot back, her voice rising almost to a shout, her face red with fury. "I'm not the one who built a career playing the virtuous leading lady. Hollywood's moral compass, while making backroom deals that contradict everything I claim to stand for. At least I'm honest about who I am. At least I don't pretend to be something I'm not. Honest." Nicole laughed bitterly, devoid of humor. "You call this ambush honest? You invited me here under completely false pretenses. You prepared this attack without giving me any chance to respond or provide context. And now you're sitting there acting like some crusading journalist exposing corruption? This isn't honest, Joy. This isn't even close. This is cowardly." The word detonated in the air. Joy's face darkened, turning a deeper shade of red. "Cowardly." She repeated, her voice shaking with pure rage. "Did you just call me cowardly? I've been asking the hard questions in this business longer than you've been playing dress-up for the camera, sweetheart. I've taken on presidents and prime ministers and CEOs. Don't you dare question my courage. Don't you dare condescend to me." Nicole snapped fully and visibly. "I've worked my entire career, my entire life to be taken seriously as an artist and as a human being. I fought